to Terry for inviting me over on this platform and seeing all the beautiful people here. So I hope everyone is in good health. And so we'll be going through some basic concepts and then look into some recommendations that we would have in terms of how to address this from a natural way. And then maybe looking into ways that we can also do that through supplementation that can also help to address these. And then we'll go through any questions and answers and from the audience. All right, so let me share some slides and I hope you can see this. All right, so great. So very wonderful afternoon to everyone. And yep, as Terry mentioned, so we'll be going through some areas which I think a lot of us maybe have faced through at least once or twice in our lifetime. If not yourself, then definitely you know of somebody who's maybe even suffering from it. I know I had a few relatives. All right, so an excited person, no worries. So for those excited out there, please, hopefully you can mute your mics as well so that we can smoothen things out. Thank you. Okay, great. So I believe everyone has had some experience going through some of these conditions. And even I had a relative who actually went through severe migraines and constantly, like every other day or so, they would have a migraine attack. And some of these are very detrimental to their quality of life. Some of these conditions like cramps and muscle cramps and even menstrual cramps can even affect your daily routine and even to some be bedridden. Okay, to some degree, you're not able to do anything for that day, let alone to do any work or go to the grocery or even go to the bathroom maybe sometimes, right? So that's what we'll be touching on today and why we put it together. I guess later on you'll find out why it kind of like intertwines and the solutions are pretty much the same. So that's why we put it together as a topic here today. So let's look at it first from migraines and headaches. So what happens when we get a headache, right? What happens when we get a migraine? Okay, so I guess headaches are a bit of a more a lower version of a migraine. Migraines are more severe. They're more, I would say, the magnitude of a migraine will be kind of like a earthquake level compared to a headache, maybe a little tremor, maybe a little shake here and there, right? So, but migraines can really affect your daily life. And what is triggering all this is because basically it's something to do with the brain, the brainstem or the trigeminal nerve, and basically it's affecting our neurons, our nerves, and so forth. And it's basically caused by inflammation. Okay, so one of the things that's causing this as well is inflammation, especially in the blood vessels in our brain. And so the key word here is I want everyone to get out of this session is basically the concept of inflammation. So inflammation is necessary as a normal bodily function. It's a way that the body reacts towards a unnatural state, and therefore then the body knows that they need to do something to respond and correct the bodily behavior. All right, so inflammation is a natural thing, it's something normal, and it needs to happen. If you do not have any reaction to these things, then you would face other complications. For instance, you're not able to repair yourself. Your body would be always in disrepair and unable to act normally once again. So inflammation in a normal sense, I mean, like if you hit your shin or your elbow against something hard, like hitting a staircase or kicking on a bench, right? What will happen? Your toe or your knee or your shin would be red and inflamed, and then after that you get a benjol or a little bump on your bone, right? So that is a form of external inflammation, and it's a normal body response. But after a while, after a few days or after a few hours, it will reduce and it will go back to normal. So in our body, the same thing happens as well. So if there's something unnatural happening, for instance, our blood vessels are clogged up with cholesterol or such, then they can get inflamed. Okay, or other conditions may also induce this inflammation. Sometimes drugs, medicine, and so forth. Sometimes some of the nutrients in our body are imbalanced, or hormone imbalance also can cause inflammation. Stress definitely is a very high proponent of inflammation, and nowadays where people are working from home or hybrid, or even now suddenly going back to work and being very stressful with the jams, that can also cause some form of inflammation in the body and in our brain and blood vessels and cause all this haywire, right? So that's one of the main triggers of why migraines and headaches happen. So these are the common triggers for headaches, right? If you ask anybody who faces headaches often or migraines, some of these may seem very familiar, right? Hormonal changes, especially for ladies who are going through periods and or menopause, especially for the men, also can face hormonal changes as well. If you have definitely excessive alcohol or caffeine can also trigger migraines and headaches. Stress, as I mentioned earlier. Other sensories, like for example, all of a sudden it's very bright outside, or you're faced with very bright lighting, or the sun all of a sudden goes into your eyes. So this can also sometimes trigger some headaches and migraines. Even sleep, different sleep rhythms, or you're not able to sleep after a few days, um, or whatever reasons that you're causing your a disruption to your sleep cycle can also be a cause for these headaches. Some people even going through exercises or runs or whatever, they can also get these migraines. Weather changes, for those who are very sensitive, when they go into an aircon room and non-aircon room, that sudden change in weather or climate can also affect. Sometimes even people who are going through night and day, right? In the daytime we're very hot, and so all of a sudden at night it becomes very cold. Sometimes not only sinus issues, but all these headaches also can come up. Like I said, medication, foods, and even food additives even can cause migraines and headaches. And that's what we specialize in, where we know that all these food additives, especially MSG, for instance, and the unnatural food additives that goes into our food, especially processed food, can actually cause these migraines and headaches as well. And for a very classic example is where my wife, for instance, she's very sensitive towards MSG. So anything, especially junk food or processed food, or even restaurants, especially unfortunately, a lot of Chinese restaurants. I know there's now a lot more healthier versions out there, but typically the normal Chinese restaurant or even Thai restaurants, which especially with the soupy foods, they contain a lot of MSG and they use MSG in the cooking. But nowadays, I believe more and more are adopting a more no MSG approach, and I hope we prefer to choose those kind of foods. All right, even the sugar alternatives like aspartame and all that also can trigger some headaches to some people. Even dairy was found to be a trigger as well, because of the inflammation effect. And because this inflammation, where we can't control where it happens, so it can happen anywhere. And if this inflammation happens in the blood vessels in our brain, of course it will cause those headaches as well. Okay, so any of these can cause that. And because of the neurotoxicity, the neurochemical behavior, the reaction that happens in our body, it can trigger these headaches and migraines. All right. Okay, so if you want to be migraine free, if you want to reduce the possibility of facing these headaches and migraines, especially those who do face this consistently every week or every other day, then definitely you want to try to avoid, if not eliminate it altogether. All right, so stuff like caffeine, even coffee, even Coke, and those soft drinks, they also have caffeine in it. Those energy drinks out there as well. Dairy products, meats, eggs, because of the high cholesterol, they also cause inflammation in our body. All right, and other triggers as well. So you want to go for a more predominantly plant-based kind of diet. In your plate, in the suku separuh, you want to have more fruits and veg and grains, and from plant sources, and less and less of those from the animal sources, especially the proteins, right? Normally, nowadays in Malaysia, we like to load up on the proteins. So even if you have nasi lemak, half your plate will be a big quarter or half chicken, right? Or daging salai and so forth, right? So all those are from animal sources, and these animal sources have the oils and fats and cholesterol, and that will cause inflammation in the body, and that will also can be a triggering point for those who are suffering migraine and headaches. So the more that you can reduce the dependency on these animal proteins, be it or eggs or dairy, milk, cheese, and so forth, then the better off you are, and the higher likelihood that you can avoid all these headaches and migraines altogether. All right. So, what does the research say? So, there's a lot of medical evidence and research that has been published into scientific journals and medical journals and so forth. And so, they have tested, and it has been proven that when you actually change to a more plant-based diet, be it vegan or vegetarian, or just try to adopt more of that, even if you're a flexitarian and maybe some of the days you're still eating meats and fish, no problem. But if you can reduce it, you can actually feel the difference. Okay, but this is an example in this study. They did a whole vegan diet, and you can see the difference where uh, the effect of migraines can reduce the frequency and the severity of it. So it's been proven, and you can try it out. Okay, so the effects. I mean, if you go vegan for one meal or one day, you may not see the difference, of course. But give it at least a week or 2 weeks. Then you try it out, and you can see the results yourself, right? So, and after that, it's up to you how you choose how what kind of diet you want to continue on. But of course, we would advocate to continue on the diet, and it will give you more health benefits in the long run. Excuse me. All right, too excited. All right, so let's look at more. So a low-fat diet is also proven, especially ones that are rich in fiber, to help with the reducing these migraines as well. I believe it would have also the relation where this fiber is also helping to kind of like drain out all the bad fats and the cholesterol and all that, and to regulate again your body, and to improve the whole bodily system, especially in the dietary tract, the uh, the digestive system, and that will overall impact the whole overall health of your body and wellness. So a low-fat diet definitely can help to reduce your overall inflammation that happens in the body, and especially those with rich fiber. So how do we get this high fiber diet? Of course, it is also from the plants and vegetables. Vegetables and fruits are high in fiber, whereas animal proteins like chicken, meat, fish, and eggs, and dairy, and all that does not have any fiber content whatsoever. If they do, it is added fiber in the foods. All right, these processed foods, they would add the fiber, and where did they get the fiber source? It is from the plant sources, the grains, the starches, the veggies, and so forth. All right, and medication can also cause this migraine effect, and some people have different triggers, and so that's why your doctors will always ask you if you are allergic to any medicine or you have any reaction to any medicine. Some people are more sensitive to other drugs, and these are some of the drugs that can be causing this migraine as well. All right, so um, one of the things that is really beneficial to migraines or inflammation in general is magnesium. All right, Mg is short for magnesium, and magnesium has been shown to actually be very beneficial to reducing the effects of migraine and headaches. And where do you get magnesium and all these minerals? Is actually from a very good source is plant sources like green leafy vegetables like your bak choy, kailan, sawi, broccoli, the legumes like soybeans, kidney beans, all these beans, nuts and seeds and whole grains, all are rich in magnesium. All right, so they are good sources of magnesium, and the like it or not, the migraine market is always growing because everybody's getting stressed and everyone's needing some medication of some sort or going to clinics to resolve the issue. And another really good, very potent, natural way to combat migraine and headaches in general is actually ginger. The humble ginger spice that I think Malaysian cooking uh, uses a lot of ginger. I think Chinese cooking especially uses a lot of ginger. It's very good for headaches and migraines. If you can have a teaspoon, or even I believe the research also shown even a quarter of a teaspoon of ginger every single day. It doesn't happen like when you have migraine, you take it, it won't be effective. But if you have it consistently every single day, then it is shown that it can reduce the number and severity of the migraines and so forth. So this can be a very good way. So you can up your ginger tea, your whatever ginger meals out there, ginger smoothie, or like I like ginger with my protein drink smoothie together with some cinnamon. So because I know that it has a lot of good anti-inflammatory effects. And so it doesn't matter whether you have fresh ginger or dried ginger, either one works effectively well. In fact, some research even shows that even dried ginger actually works better. So for some odd reason, all right. So you can try that out. And I think a few those who have tried essential oils, these are some oils that can help with uh, kind of like reducing and alleviating headaches as well. Lavender, eucalyptus oil, even peppermint. So if you have peppermint tea or you're infusing peppermint into your essential oil diffuser, it can help with calming the brain, calming the stress as well. So another study also noted that magnesium has this effect into it has a weight effect with our body, and where it helps to it's a cofactor with hundreds of enzymes in our body, enzymatic reactions, and therefore that's why it ultimately helps with inflammatory disorders, so including this inflammation effect, and helps with other conditions like diabetes and heart disease and so forth. Okay, so and we want to address this because you don't want to suffer and go through this migraines long term, because it can be a precursor or a symptom or a petanda lah, basically some it can be a sign towards something more serious, and you don't want this to happen. And please do check with the doctor. I'm not a doctor here for you, but definitely do consult with your doctor and check if you're still having these consistent migraines or face them on a consistent basis. Then definitely check for these other conditions like high blood pressure, meningitis, or other more serious conditions like brain tumor. All right, so that is the topic of migraine, and we'll see how cramps also in some way kind of like uh, the cause and effect, and what you can do to treat it is almost pretty similar. So we'll touch on two different kind of cramps, and I believe it can relate to many of you out there. So we'll start with the muscle cramps. So muscle cramps, because I remember when me and Aina were actively running, so we were training for marathons, and we even completed a full marathon on the Penang Bridge. And so this was one of the main concerns for us, and being not active runners, so we were concerned how to address this and how to reduce this, right? So what causes muscle cramps? Basically, when we overuse certain muscles, and when we get dehydrated, not enough water, when there's muscle strain, when we are in a certain position and not moving, immobility, not moving as much. That's why we need to always keep on moving. Our body is designed to move. So if we are sedentary for long periods of time, of course, we will get these cramps and other conditions. And if you have diabetic conditions, or which has caused damage to your nerves or kidneys, it can also cause other complications like these muscle cramps as well. Okay, so it can be also a sign for other things like inadequate blood supply, because when we have cramping, basically it can be a sign that the blood circulation, where blood circulates in our body to deliver nutrients, good nutrients, and oxygen. Very important for our body. If we don't have those two, then our body cannot function. We will die, basically, right? So we need this good blood supply, especially if we have muscle cramps and numbness at our extremities, like our fingertips or our toes. If we often feel numb at times, that means that's a sign that we have poor blood circulation. And there's ways that we can address it, but we do need to address the elephant in the room, which is normally the case. What is causing all this? Because there's buildup of cholesterol and bad fats into our body, and oxidation of that causes all this clogged up arteries and veins in our blood vessels, right? And another thing is nerve compression, like spine or lumbar stenosis, and especially if you sit down too long, or you're in a very awkward position and compressing certain nerves in your body. And that's why I think some people go through chiropractors or these massages, because you want to loosen up and get the blood flowing and circulating back again, and all the nerve function to work properly again, right? And another cause for this, or it can be a causal effect as well, can be mineral depletion. When you have too little potassium, when you have too little calcium and magnesium in your diet, it can also be a cause causing this muscle cramps as well. And some medication, diuretics, especially high blood pressure medication, can also be depleting these minerals and thus causing the muscle cramps. So if you read the labels of these medications, the fine print, and it's normally very, very fine, you need a magnifying glass to read it, where the common side effects could be headaches, migraine, and cramping of the muscles. And why? Because it causes these mineral depletion in your body, and thus causing this effect. Okay. All right. So what foods, if we want to address it through foods, what should we be eating? We need to find potassium-rich foods, which are mainly abundant in fruits, and as you can see here, and green leafy vegetables. So the key here, if you take anything from this talk, you need to understand you need to increase more green leafy vegetables, the bak choy, the sawi, kangkong, kailan, whatever greens that you like, you need to increase it. If you don't like eating it on its own or in cooked food, then have it in a smoothie. Okay, nowadays my family does a lot. We do a lot of smoothies. We do a lot of fruit and veggie smoothies. Okay, especially if your children don't like vegetables, this is a trick. You can load up on the fruits, maybe half of it, and then half of it is the green veggies. They won't even know it's there. If you want to hide the color, then find those which are you just put a little bit of greens and then put a lot more of the fruits, especially the darker colors of fruits would make it more camouflage, like the dragon fruits, like the watermelons and so forth, right? So that it will be deep color and they won't even know it's there, right? And then you can add down the protein powder or other powders and other nutrients, and it can make it a very nutritious meal. Okay, so potassium is very good. Kurma, this is one of the tricks that we use in our full marathon. What we did was had a pouch full of kurma and had a pouch full of calcium, B complex vitamins, and some omega-3. So I'll tell you later why this is good, because it's all anti-inflammatory effect. It helps to relax the muscles and help with our nerve function as well. So it's very important. Okay, and another cool thing is that we also, so you can see the relation. Just now, ginger also help with migraines and headaches. Ginger can also help with muscle pain and muscle cramps. Okay, so if you're going through exercise regime, or you're going to the gym a lot, or you're very active and you always face this problem, actually consuming ginger on a consistent basis can also help with those muscle cramps and so forth. All right, so I believe this is very relatable to a lot of ladies out there. I'm not sure if this is the right statistic, but at least this is what I found before was 15%. I would I probably dare to say maybe at least half of you will be facing these issues before, once in your life before, when you face periods and so forth, right? So and it happens once a month. I may not have time to go through the video, but if you want to look further, one of the main cause of menstrual cramps, according to the physicians committee, based on their research, one of the underlying cause and unknown to many ladies out there is actually dairy milk. The consumption of dairy milk and the kind of the way that milk is produced nowadays, and be it fresh milk, fat milk, low fat milk, cheese, yogurt, or whatever, all that can actually aggravate further the muscle cramps. Although we are touted and marketed that we should drink milk for the calcium, but please, I think you are smarter than that. You can actually do the research. There's a lot of other sources of calcium, and it's not just in the milk. Yes, milk has all the other minerals and vitamins, but it's also loaded with a lot of cholesterol. It has a lot of fats, saturated fats, and all that. And that's the things that you don't want. On top of that, it has all the hormones and all that, because of how the milk is produced nowadays is totally different from how our grandparents used to enjoy milk. All right, so milk is not the same as what we had before. Yes, it still contains those nutrients, but it also contains all those other unnecessary things that we do not want and we want to reduce of. Okay, so you can find that video later, and if you go through that video, definitely it says it has been shown that there's almost like a direct relationship when you consume a lot of milk, and because milk and the components in milk, it causes inflammation in the body, because our body is not built to digest lactose naturally, and a lot more Asians are more intolerant to lactose. So why are we subjecting our body to that? If we want the calcium, we get it from other sources. There's a lot of plant sources that does that, and there's a lot of plant-based nutritional supplements that can also do that, so we can get it from other sources. So if you want to reduce your muscle cramps, definitely these are things that you want to avoid. The dairy, just now, the processed meats, the eggs, and basically any animal proteins you want to reduce, because of the cholesterol, because of this, and because of the inflammation that all of these meats will cause into your body. And when you do this, what the research has found, it kind of like magically removes the period pain altogether. Once you remove animal proteins from your diet, you can actually remove the biggest source of period pain that anyone goes through. So what do? If you do not eat those proteins, then what other choices you have? Actually, all the plant sources foods out there all contain some protein of some form. Okay, if you're not convinced that's enough, definitely check out the plant protein milks and alternatives out there. And even there are supplements out there, the protein supplements, protein powders, that most of them out there are plant-based anyway, so you can go for that as well. All right, so yeah, we won't have time to go through that. So what does the research show? That when women, right, when women actually switch to a more low-fat vegetarian diet or even vegan diet, they can actually reduce their period pains and the pain intensity, right, and the duration of the pain. All right, so this is very significant. I may not have faced it myself personally, but I know of people, ladies out there who have faced these, and I have colleagues before who cannot show up to work. Why? Because they are basically they're stuck on the bed. They cannot even get up. So I know I can only empathize with those who are facing these issues, and I hope people can take this information and help those out there who are suffering from these conditions. And these are some things that you can do. So there's another research where again ginger comes up. For some reason, ginger is the magic spice. If you can consume ginger regularly, it can definitely help even for menstrual pain as well, and it has been shown to reduce and even be equivalent to the effects of ibuprofen. What is the normal thing that the doctor will give you if you go to a doctor addressing menstrual pain? They'll give you something like a non-steroidal drug, which is commonly ibuprofen. And so this research has shown that it's basically the same effect, but without the side effects. That's the good thing, because ginger doesn't have any side effects known to mankind yet. But ibuprofen, all these drugs and out there, all would have some side effect one on another. Eventually, when you do consume too much of these drugs and painkillers and so forth, it can eventually cause potentially long-term chronically, it can impact your kidneys or your other bodily functions. So we want to minimize and prevent them early on. So we want to reduce our dependency on these drugs. Then these are the natural ways that we can go about it. All right. So fennel seeds is another good way to do it, and it's been proven to also help with this menstrual pain as well. All right, so those are the and also magnesium. Magnesium is also very helpful in helping with this, because it is similar to the one just now I showed about the muscle cramps. Magnesium minerals are a natural way to relax your muscles. It works hand in hand with calcium. So kind of like calcium help contracts the muscle, whereas magnesium relaxes the muscles. Okay, and to be able to absorb calcium in our body for our bones, so calcium we need it for the bones, so magnesium is the one that helps to make the absorption of this calcium much better anyway. So we want both, but we want them in the good amounts and in balance. So we want a combination of all these minerals and vitamins and so forth to be able to be healthy overall. Okay, so other ways that we can go about it, of course, I believe you have been I think the ladies out there would know better. Maybe applying heat can also help. Maybe some gentle exercises. You want to find out what works for you and what works well for you, and you can find out more from your friend who brought you here. They can actually advise you how you can also treat it naturally, and maybe also look into supplementation that can help as well. So definitely, when we ran the marathon a few years ago, we saw that the benefits when we had the kurma, we had kurma because it's easy to bring, very portable, and we had all these vitamins and supplements because it's easy and we can just consume it every hour. We consumed it. Alhamdulillah, I think the best effect is that we I had a little cramp, but compared to the 42 kilometers is nothing, right? And I think the best thing of it is that the recovery period after that, after a few hours we were able to walk and go and do our business. Actually, we went out for dinner that very same evening and no problems, because we know of people who finish marathons and they couldn't even stand up after a day. They will be facing a lot of issues and not being able to do any physical activities. Actually, the next day we had a tour. We had a tour with the family and just jalan-jalan Penang lah as a tourist. But we did a lot of walking and had no problems whatsoever. And so we highly recommend it for those who are actually planning to do marathons and all that. Do adopt a more plant-based diet. I think that's the best thing that we can encourage you to do. And do, of course, do it in a balanced way. You still want to do suku suku separuh, all right, but predominantly your